literally, I remember the doctor was walking out of the room, taking his gloves off, and I looked up at the monitor, and the heart rate went from like 150, and all of a sudden it was like 70.
NRSNG podcast, episode number 222. Welcome to the show today, guys. Today I am talking with my good friend, Ashley Atkins, RN BSN. Ashley and I have been talking and working together for nearly 2 years now when she was still in nursing schools when we did our first podcast together. And Ashley runs an incredibly helpful, incredibly resourceful YouTube channel. If you go on YouTube and search Ashley Atkins RN, you can find all of her videos. So I'd invite you to go over there and subscribe. And had a lot of fun in this conversation. We talk a lot about her journey in nursing, what led her to where she is, and her biggest tips and biggest advice for you as nursing students. But before we get started with that, I want to remind you guys again that you can get 3 days of access to NRSNG Academy for just $1. NRSNG Academy is our full, complete suite of nursing education resources, including courses, videos, cheat sheets, flashcards, and tons of other tools and apps to help you really understand and accomplish your goals of becoming an RN. This is really the apex of our tools that we are offering to you. You can get 3 days of access for just $1 if you go over to nrsng.com/academy. That's nrsng.com/academy.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley Atkins. I have a YouTube channel called Ashley Atkins RN that I started. It's actually almost 2 years ago. It's be 2 years in March. And I do lots of YouTube videos, like personal videos on like stories maybe, or like experiences that I had. I do a lot of advice videos for nursing students, new nurses, experienced nurses, just a variety of things that I enjoy talking about, and a lot of people enjoy listening apparently. So it's been kind of a fun hobby and also an outlet for me, and just have built a great community through the my YouTube channel. So yeah, it's a fun thing.
And recently you hit a milestone there. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, recently my channel reached over 1 million views. It's actually funny because Nurse Bass, who has been on the podcast, and a lot of people know him from YouTube, he actually messaged me the day I reached 1 million views, and he's like, "Congrats!" And I didn't even realize it because I don't actually really pay attention much to all of my views or subscribers, and so it was kind of funny that he messaged me about it. But yeah, we reached over 1 million views, which is just crazy to think that. I've reached so many people. My videos have reached so many people and inspired so many people. And that's really what it's all about, and what keeps me making them is just that, I love motivating people and inspiring people.
I know recently you kind of got a job in the ICU. Do you want to talk about kind of how that worked out? I know a lot of people want to work ICU, so how did that all come about?
So my first year of nursing, I worked primarily med-surg, and then I was relocating, and so I started the job search, and I was kind of torn between, I liked the ER, I liked the ICU, so I ended up applying to both, and the first interview I got was for the ICU. So it was actually a webcam interview, which was quite interesting and fun.
Did you stream your interview or something, or was that?
I did, yes. I actually have my live interview on my YouTube channel. I recorded just my face,
That's pretty cool.
So, people can hear the types of questions that were asked and my responses. But I got that interview for the ICU, and, within the week they contacted me back and wanted to hire me. And, I was like, well, I like the ICU. Let's just jump right in and let's just do it. And so I accepted that position and started about a month later after I, relocated and everything and got settled.
What kind of ICU is it? Medical? Is it general? What kind of floor is it?
It's a medical surgical ICU.
And how many beds?
There are 24 beds in our ICU. Yeah, and there's a CVICU and a neurotrauma ICU as well.
So you're seeing a lot of DKA. What other things are you seeing there?
Tons of things. DKAs, CHF exacerbation, a lot of ARDS, respiratory failure. A lot of people that had GI bleeds or, needed extensive surgeries. And
so you guys have all the surgical patients too?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
I really like it because, I did med surge before, so I had a little taste of all of these things, but to see them on like a multi-system,
Hmm.
multi-organ level is just, it's fascinating and I love it. It just, it like increased the intensity about 10 times now that I'm in the ICU.
And how do you feel about liver patients?
Well, they have just a beautiful smell.
Yes, you'll never forget the smell.
No.
That's cool. So yeah, the neuro ICU I worked on, because we had the three ICUs going too, but it also
Mhm.
served as like the overflow for surgical or medical, and so got a lot of those CHF exacerbations, and the liver patients tended to go to us because they didn't want them, you know. So we got a lot of those.
Code Blue, room 305.
About a week ago, you uploaded a video called "My First Code."
I was about, I think, 7 weeks into my orientation. I was still on orientation, and as terrible as a person as this makes me sound, I was just anxiously awaiting a code.
Oh yeah, for
Because
sure.
I wanted that experience while on orientation, while I had that nurse that was dedicated towards
Hmm.
helping me learn and everything. I didn't want to be off orientation and like, oh my goodness, someone's coding.
Right.
So my first code, it actually wasn't my patient, and it was actually a different nurse's patient, and they called it on the overhead, and I went down, and it was I want to say quite. I don't want to use the word shocking, but not like how you picture it in the movies. Like they show it all, like, it's
It's
all
not Grey's Anatomy when it gets real.
exactly, exactly. It was, organized chaos. There was a lot of people there, and but it was messy. It was very bloody, messy,
Hmm.
and I didn't anticipate that. They don't show that in the movies. It's always like this perfectly little clean. The bed's nice and made.
Clear. Yeah.
Yeah. So I for that first code, I observed a lot, but I also helped push meds, and both intensivists actually showed up, and I was standing right in the middle of them, so I got to bounce off ideas or things off of them and listen to like their reasoning and rationale behind things, and
Hmm.
they would say give this or give this med, and I would be like, so why are we giving that, or what's your rationale, or unless I knew why we were giving like epi. Like,
Hmm.
I know why we're giving epi, but so yeah, I mean, it was a sad situation to end because the patient ended up not making it, but it was a good experience to see how everyone just came together for this patient to do everything. And the family was in the room, which
Mm.
I think was, obviously it's very hard for them, but I think they could see that we literally were doing everything that we could. So since then, I've had quite a few more codes, and I've had actually my own patient code a couple weeks ago, which was another interesting experience.
Do you remember the diagnosis of this first patient, or was it you just showed up and started going?
I just showed up and started going, so I don't even remember why they're there or anything like that. I was just an extra set of hands.
Yeah, so lots of things we could talk about with codes because first of all, I think codes and RRTs, we'd call them, and different things like that are the areas that you learn the most, because when medicine is working how it's supposed to work, it's by the book, it's perfect, but when something goes wrong, you have to think on your feet and you have to really dig into, the rationales behind epi, like what's the right drug we give at this moment, or what do we need to do here, or how can you fix things quickly? And I think you can learn so much in those instances. So what I would always do, both when I was precepting and a student and when I would precept students and stuff, is anytime anything was going down, like we'd run to the area so I could get them in there. And I'd push their way through and I'd say, just go do compressions. If you can't do anything else, do compressions.
Yeah.
And just like because anybody can do compressions, just be in the room and be around it so you can start getting comfortable with those. And I think it helps you kind of keep your, I don't know, keep your wits when things start going bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You got to have that exposure so you don't freak out. And I think the most important thing to remember is that you're not alone. When someone codes and you're the only one in the room and you yell out code blue, you're going to get a ton of people in there really
Pretty
quick. And
yeah.
so, as long as you know what you should do immediately, when someone's coding and doesn't have a pulse, you start compressions and you just do compressions until more people show up and more things start happening. And, not like you're going to be the only one ever running a code. You're going to have a ton of people in there with a ton of knowledge that can help you.
Yeah, I mean, codes are kind of, maybe I'll feel bad for saying this too, but for our ICU, for our hospital too, with 3 ICUs and stuff, codes were almost like the social setting for ICU nurses. It's like where you got to see your old ICU buddies and like, how's things going down here, you know? Definitely devastating for the patients, and I don't ever want to act like we want codes to happen, but like you said, like almost anxiously waiting, like on edge when those things happen. You're ready, you're prepared, and it's kind of a test of your knowledge, you know?
Yeah, test your knowledge, and also you get to really see how well you function as a unit, like the teamwork. You know, you've got your respiratory therapist, the CNA comes in and helps out with compressions. You've got nurses in there that are, you know, just have so much knowledge, and you really get to see, you know, how your team comes together, and that's really like, you know, what, I don't know, it gives me a good feeling inside when it's like, yeah, we really worked well together. You know, we did this, we helped save this person. You know, I go home and feel like I actually, you know, made a difference.
Let's talk holidays in the hospital. How was Thanksgiving? How was Christmas and everything? How is it going in the hospital with holidays?
Good. I was very lucky. I had Thanksgiving off, and I not only had Thanksgiving off, I had that Wednesday through Sunday off. I managed to somehow work that one in. So I was actually out of town. But I heard over Thanksgiving that a lot of nurses actually ended up getting called off because they were slower. But I will be working this Christmas, and I will be working New Year's. And I'm actually, you know, I'm kind of excited, and I know you've talked about this too. It's kind of, you just feel different when you work the holidays. Like, it's just a different vibe. It's a little bit quieter. There's not as many, you know, management people and all the, you know, all the extra stuff. Yeah, exactly. And you can just really focus on your job and your patient's care. And I don't mind working holidays. One, you know, you get the extra pay. I don't have kids yet. I'm married, but my husband's gone, you know, deployed right now. So, you know, I don't mind working the holidays because I would rather people that, you know, have a bunch of kids, you know, get to spend that time at home with their families. So,
sure.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
It is neat because, you know, a lot of the hospitalists, like they're preparing during the week leading up to Christmas or Thanksgiving, and they're sending everybody they can home, you know, and kind of decreasing their admissions. And then it just seems like patients' health conditions cooperate a little better on holidays. I don't know why, but things are just kind of nice. Like, you have a minute, you can kind of talk to your patients, and there's less people there, and it's pretty well staffed and stuff. So yeah, I do appreciate it. I actually found recently a Christmas card that a patient's husband had given to me on my first Christmas in the hospital. And it was really sweet because he sat in the room. His wife had just had a stroke, and he kind of sat in the corner. They brought like their own recliner or something. I don't know. I remember him having like a rocking chair or something in the corner. And he would just sit there all night and write Christmas cards to anybody that walked in the room. What are the 3 biggest things that you think you've learned this year as a nurse, kind of reflecting back throughout the year?
I think one of them that I realized, especially while working in the ICU, is that you can't be everywhere all the time. You know, if you're in one room and your patient's really sick and you're titrating drips and the pump goes off in your next room, and you know that it could be your Levophed that's, you know, almost run dry, and sometimes you have to learn when to ask for help. And that's the biggest thing, is you got to learn when you need to call in for help. And that's something that I've learned, is that as much as it'd be nice if there was 3 of me to do my job, you know, sometimes we just do the best we can, you know, in the situation that we're in. So that's one of them. Learning what your resources are too is another thing, is, you know, like medications, like where can I go up and look for IV compatibility, and, you know, making sure that you're educated on the medicines that you're giving, especially in the ICU. I mean, I know med-surg, it's important too, but a lot of times you're giving, you know, pills and med-surg, and in the ICU, you're giving things that if you mess up on 1 extra cc, that can be a bad day.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and then I guess the next thing I've learned is just to, and you learn this in nursing school, but it's just really reiterated, especially in the ICU, is to even though you're sometimes in a fast-paced situation, is to take a step back and breathe, and make sure that you're checking all your steps and making sure everything is what it should be, right medication, right patient, because, you know, you really could make a big mistake if you accidentally did that. And sometimes you're just so busy, and sometimes you have two patients that have the same diagnosis and they're getting the same treatment and the same labs, and you want to make sure that you're doing everything on that right patient. So that's another thing that I've always known, but it's just been, reiterated, I guess, if that makes sense, in the ICU.
Definitely. And I mean, to talk about that for a second, because I stress that a lot, is staying calm, and because you'll do so much more good for your patient if you take one deep breath and think about things before you just start screaming and yelling,
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I can really think to share a story of that is the first time I saw VTAC on a monitor. I flipped out. Just started running around, flipping out. Help! I need help. My preceptor walks over, and I'm like, "What's wrong with her?" I was like, "Do they have a pulse?" And I was like, "Yeah, let me check." And sure enough, they had a pulse. So, I can think of those nurses that just stayed calm, and I can think of the others that just, the littlest thing, like spilt milk, they would just lose it over. And it's like,
Yeah.
because when things hit the fan and stuff, it's like, it was hard to keep them calm and then keep the family calm and keep the patient calm. It was just too many people to try to keep calm. So I don't even know how to teach that necessarily, but.
No, and I think it just kind of something, well, I guess for some people it may never come, but something that comes with time is just, I think the biggest thing in the ICU for me, like starting out, was learning what my next step is. It's like, okay, I can recognize VTAC on the monitor. Now what?
Now what?
Mm-hmm. And you may be able to rationalize through that when you're just sitting there, talking to your preceptor or thinking about it or reading about it. But then when it actually happens, is your knowledge going to be there? And, I had a situation, like I said, a few weeks ago, I had my first patient code. And a little background on the situation was they came up from the ER, struggling to breathe on BiPAP, a non-working IV, which is always fun.
Yay. Here's your patient, by the way. Yeah.
Yes. And, I called the doctor. We intubated, right away once we got a working line. And literally, I remember the doctor was walking out of the room, taking his gloves off. And I looked up at the monitor, and the heart rate went from like 150, and all of a sudden it was like 70, 50. So I checked a pulse. And, I could only imagine there was no pulse, so there wasn't. And so called a code, and I remember the doctor just turned around and walked back. But, through that whole code and everything, afterwards, I kind of was debriefing with some of the nurses and the doctor about what happened. And I said, I feel, I don't want to say impressed, but I'm proud of myself, because you always wonder, you have all this knowledge, but is it going to be there in a situation? Are you going to recognize it when something does go wrong? And I felt like I recognized it, and I initiated the correct steps, and, we got the whole team in there and coded and all whatnot. But yeah, it's one of those things that you have all this knowledge, and you just wonder, in the right time, is it gonna come to your head, come to your mind? And for me, in that situation, it did, which I'm thankful for. I'm sure there's going to be situations in the future where I don't know, or I do know, but it's not coming to my mind. And just staying calm and knowing what your next step is.
And I think the best way to explain it is like, as like a nurse, and any nurse, and maybe especially in situations like ICU or ED or trauma type situations, you have to kind of do two things at once that aren't really compatible. You have to be walking a line of tremendous anxiety, anticipation, and everything, and at the same time you have to stay massively calm. Like, you have to be really calm, but you also have to be like towing the line of anxiety, like waiting for that next thing to happen. But for right now, everything's cool,
Yeah, well, you have to anticipate it to know what you're going to do. Like, even though things are all fine and dandy, you got to anticipate, okay, well, if my patient's heart rate suddenly jumps up to 170, what's my next step?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So are you night shift or day shift?
I'm day shift.
Nice. All right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you another question. This is kind of a more difficult question too, but
bring it.
We're grilling you today. So I wanted to ask, now that you've been out of school for a little while, you've had a couple jobs in a couple different settings. If you could turn back the clock 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe 3-4 years, when you're going into your freshman year of college as a nurse, what would you sit down and tell your freshman self?
It's going to be okay. No, that's a great question. I think I would tell myself to really just take things day by day. When you start off nursing school, you're just so anxious just to get through it. But, telling myself, take it day by day and really soak in all the knowledge that you learn. And, nursing school, does it prepare you for being a nurse? To a certain extent, yes, but you really learn most of your things, when you actually become a nurse. But, don't take the things you learn in that nursing school lightly, because those are really the basic foundations of nursing and those big safety markers for keeping your patients safe. So if I could look back and tell my young little freshman self, it would just be, take it day by day and don't be so anxious just to be done. Of course, you're excited to get through nursing school and move on to what you've been working for, but, don't let that slide, the things that you're learning throughout nursing school.
Absolutely. And what do you study now? Like, what are you doing to continue learning and things like that?
So right now, one of my biggest focuses is I'm really trying to become well versed in all of the ICU medications and drips. And of course, there's a bunch of other things as well, but that's kind of one of the
focus.
My main focus. And, every shift I try to look up one of the medications and really become well educated in it. So that way, when you're in a situation where, let's say they say, you need to go or hang Levophed, you're not like, oh, what do I need to start this at?
What's the starting dose?
What can I titrate? Is this weight-based or non-weight-based? So... And obviously that comes over time with just experience and everything. But I would say the ICU drips, the things that I haven't seen, pathophys, of course, is, another big thing that you're always learning. But I feel like, I doing med surg, I got a little taste of all the pathophys, and now it's just on a grander scheme of things.
When things get a little bit worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Things get a little worse and involve a lot more systems and organs and everything. But yeah, definitely. ICU meds are one of the things that every shift I'm looking up, learning the compatibilities, of all of them, and is another huge thing because, you've got so many medications running at one time.
For sure. So what's the plan with nursing now? What's the 5-year plan?
5-year plan. So
this is like a job interview, Ashley.
I know. So I definitely want to go back to school to pursue my education. And I think I would go the nurse practitioner route. However, I just want to gain more experience in, the nursing setting and kind of figure out what I want to specialize in. Because right now I just like so many things, and I really, really love the ICU, but I've also been only working the ICU for 3 months.
Right.
So, things could change, and I want to make sure that when I go back to school, I know for sure what I want to specialize in. Do I want to be in the hospital setting? Do I want to be like a family practice nurse practitioner or, women's health or whatnot? So I really want to gain more experience in the nursing setting. And to be honest, I am super happy with being a nurse right now at this point in my life. I really love my job. I love the people I work with. I get a great sense of work satisfaction and, life satisfaction by going to work. And, of course, I want to continue to progress and move forward, but I also want to just soak in the moment, if that makes sense.
I love it. No, that's awesome. I have a flaw of always looking for the next thing, and almost like to a flaw. Like I'm always like, what's next? Where I have a difficult time doing that. But I think that advice and that outlook you have is much more healthy. And I think that's great. Like just take a minute to just enjoy, like you said, like you've been an ICU nurse for 3 months. Like don't worry about the next thing yet, and just enjoy it and enjoy everything that you're going to be able to see and do. And on that note, how do you stave off burnout and compassion fatigue? What are some things that you do, or do you consciously do anything, or?
I think I just, while I'm at work, I'm at work. And when I'm at home, I enjoy being at home. And I have a lot of hobbies and things that I enjoy doing. So on my days off, I spend my time doing those. And, I try not to, occasionally when I'm at home, I will look up something. I'm like, what was that medication again that I gave? Or, I really, I'll be laying in bed at night. I'm like, thinking about something. I'm like, let me look that up really quick. And so I'm not going to deny and say that when I'm at home, I just totally don't think of work. But I try to, when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, when I'm at home, and I enjoy doing, going hiking. I have 2 dogs. We enjoy going out to dog parks or, cooking, keeping my house nice and tidy. I enjoy doing all those things. And so really, I don't think I consciously do anything. I just try to, have that healthy balance, so to speak. I enjoy personally for myself, I enjoy working 3 days in a row and then having 4, 5, 6, whatever off, depending. Right now I'm on day 2 of a 6-day off stretch. So I personally like working, kind of groups, doing my couple days on and couple days off. And everyone's different. Some people get more burnt out by doing that. And maybe over time I won't be able to do that. But that's what works for me. I like going to work and then I have a bunch of days off to decompress. It's kind of hard when I have like one on, one off, one on, one off, because then you just have one off. It's like, doesn't even count. You might as well just spend the night at the hospital and be there for the next morning.
No, that's exactly how I felt too. It's like, I would tell my wife and my kids, I'm like, I'm absent for the next 3 days. You won't see me. And then I'm going to be home for 6 days, 8 days, whatever it was. And I love that. I love that so much about nursing, is being able to really have the home time and have the work time, I never felt like a regular dad that's like going to work every day. I was able to be home with the kids a lot. So I love that.
I joke around with, I was talking to my mom about it, I'll be like, oh, I'm off for the next 6 days. And she's like, it must be nice. I'm like, well, that's the beauty thing is I work my butt off those 3 days.
Yes.
And not that my mom doesn't or other people don't work their butts off at work, but you get your butt kicked, you work really, really hard and it is really tiring. And you get home after that 3rd day and you're like, oh my gosh, thank God I don't have to go back for 6 days. But then you have 6 days and by the 6th day, you're like, all right, I'm ready. You're going to go back to the hospital and there's going to be mostly new patients or new things. That's another thing I like is as nice as it is sometimes to have the same patient consistently, consistent for them, consistent for you, safer. It's nice. I like the change. And that's the great thing about the ICU is I know when I go back, I'm most likely going to have different patients, different things, and get to learn different things.
Tell everybody where they can find you. I know you have an Instagram account that you're pretty active on and your YouTube channel, of course. Where can people find you, connect with you? What do you want them to say to you when they come say hi?
So I would say, if you go to my YouTube channel, Ashley Atkins RN, I have all of my social media, linked below. So I have, my Instagram account, I have my personal Instagram and nursing, and I've got, Twitter and all of that fun stuff. I would say, Instagram is the thing I'm most active on. So if people are wanting to reach out to me, ask me questions, I'm more likely to respond on Instagram and YouTube. I do respond on YouTube as well. Those are the places I'm most active. I do get a lot of people emailing me questions and a lot of things. And it's very difficult when you have, several questions a day and a lot of the same questions asked every day as well. So usually when I have that, I end up making a video.
Just a video, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so definitely I would, leave me a comment on one of my videos or my Instagram, say you came from, hearing the NRSNG podcast and, that way I know where you found me from. And that's, it's a cool little community that we have that we can, all be supportive of one another and especially in the nursing world because we need that support.
Yes, we do very much. Well, I think you gave a lot of good advice, a lot of good tips. I think, I've learned some things. I've learned, to try to live more in the moment. I think that is really helpful. And I have to remind myself constantly of that. So what's some last parting advice, last words or anything you'd like to leave with everybody?
Wherever you are in your nursing journey, whether you're, in high school, just wanting to be a nurse or you've been a nurse for 10 years is just, continually learn and grow and progress and, but, take it day by day. Live in that moment and just continue to grow because you're going to get there. If you work hard, you're going to get there. And I know you just posted on your NRSNG Instagram about how hard work can sometimes how was it?
What's the quote? Yeah, sorry.
Something about, how working hard can overcome talent or something like that, that you can't replace hard work.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So work hard no matter where you're at in your nursing journey and you're going to get there.
Guys, I want to remind you one more time to go over to YouTube and search Ashley Atkins RN. If you aren't already subscribed to her YouTube channel, you really should subscribe. She's got a lot of really, really helpful tips and tools and tricks and everything for nursing students and nurses. And I really just want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend it with us, to spend it with me and Ashley. You guys are really the heart and soul of everything that we do here at NRSNG, and we spend so much effort and so much time trying to provide you with this confidence and these tools that you need. I want you to listen to the suggestions given in this podcast and really apply them as you study and as you apply for jobs and as you work as a nurse. All right, guys, with that said, I want you to go out and be your best self today. Happy nursing.